What's up, guys? Welcome to the Rich20Something podcast. I'm here with my friend Steve Kamb of NerdFitness. This is a date with Destiny. We kept missing each other, and that's Tony Robbins does that date with Destiny. I want to do that.
Sure, why not? Well, maybe we can actually meet up there.
Yeah, let's do it. So happy to have you, Steve. You just have a book. You have a book that just came out.
I do. I
Yeah,
wrote a book,
you wrote a
and
book.
it's on bookshelves, and you can buy it, and it's really cool for me.
Is your mom like exponentially prouder of you now that you have this thing? You know?
Yeah, I mean, she was like fan number one of Nerd Fitness since when nobody else was reading it, she was the only one that was. So, and she loves to talk. So
Moms do.
I'll get an email or text from her all the time. She's like, I was in the doctor's office waiting, and I gave your book to blah blah blah. Or she'll be like, oh, I was in the airport, and everyone's like, thanks.
Has she found your book in the airport yet? That's a cool experience.
No, I mean, like, she'll like bring them with her and give them to people.
God. Yeah, my mom, my family in general only understood what I was doing once I said, "Hey, I have a book coming," or "Hey, like I have this article in Time or something." That's the only time when they actually understood. Before that, just I'm making digital products. I'm an entrepreneur. They're like, "What do you? We don't understand you. What are you
It's a
doing?"
website.
It's a
Yeah,
website.
he helps people get fit on the internet.
He has a blog.
Right.
What's Steve doing? I don't know. He's just blogging, he's doing something.
Yeah, right.
So we were talking before the recording started about kind of the interesting like juxtaposition of like the allure of starting an online business versus the reality, right? And it's like entrepreneurship is very trendy right now, Steve. It's very trendy.
It's the in thing, right?
Yeah,
Just
I feel like
start a blog and money starts shooting
oh
out
yeah,
your
it just spits out at you from the screen. I feel like it's like we're at 11:45 and the pumpkin, the carriage is about to turn back into a pumpkin of Cinderella, and that's entrepreneurship. Like everyone's gonna realize that it's like, oh, this is bullshit, you know. But no, so what I'm curious to know about you, and I want to talk about Level Up Your Life, right? That's the name of your book,
Sure. Yep.
right? So I want to talk about the book, but I want to dive into a little bit about your journey, and throughout this, I want to ask you some questions that maybe are a little bit unconventional. Because listen, if you've been on the podcast circuit, everyone fucking knows your story. Yeah, Steve Kamb, Nerd Fitness, like everyone talks about that stuff.
Sure.
I was talking to, I'm sure you know John Romanello. I was talking to
No.
him. We had him on a podcast last week, and
Did he have blue hair yet?
yeah, we had him in studio, and I met him outside the studio. I was like, what the fuck is going on with you? Like,
I love it. I love it. He's
I love it. It's amazing.
just getting after it.
And he didn't even have a reason. He's just like, just because.
Yeah.
Just because. But he said something interesting. I was talking to him, and I'm like, yeah, so tell us a little bit more about your story. He's like, I will not tell you my story. You can look it up on Google. It's very Roman, right? He was like, I will not tell you. I'm like, you can Google it. And then I'm like, that's actually a really good point. Like, we don't need to go, someone can look at your about me, right? So with that being said, tell us a little bit about who you are, and then
Sure.
I'll help kind of guide you and pick out some cool things.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the interesting thing for me that will be most applicable to your listeners, and I apologize, here in New York City, I have the wonderful sirens and horns
It's
of.
the background noise.
It's so funny. Like I completely forget about them because I'm so attuned to it now.
I
But
know.
they always seem to line up.
I forget about the
during
bumps
an
in LA,
interview.
but they're just here.
During an interview. And there was one point where like there was a fire truck, a police car, and an ambulance all waiting at the same intersection. All three of their sirens going out. So I was like,
It's about that. That's pretty accurate. Yeah.
all right, yeah, there we go. So anyway, I think I have a unique story that will be most applicable to your listeners in that my first job out of college, I was a small cog in a big wheel, or small cog in a big machine.
Ooh,
I was a salesman for a massive construction equipment company. I then moved on from there, and I was a employee number 15 at a small company doing things that I loved. And then from there, I took Nerd Fitness. It was while working for them that I started Nerd Fitness on the side as a kind of a side hobby. And then for a few years, Nerd Fitness was just me. It was a kind of a solo entrepreneur project.
Yeah.
And then over the past 2.5 years, Nerd Fitness has gone from one person to now 9 full-timers, a handful of part-timers, a bookkeeper, accountant, lawyer, the server guy, like all these things.
A
It's
web
like,
dev.
how did this happen? So I feel like I've gone through all 4 stages of, I think, what helped me shape who I am and what I do. But yeah, I've gone from sales to marketing to solo entrepreneur to now CEO. It's been a very, very interesting journey. and so much fun. Now I write about Star Wars and push-ups and helping people live more adventurous lives. And I have a team full of people that I love that live in 9 different states. I
You
guess
pick a
now with the
person
part-timers.
from each state. Like you have 9 employees in 9 states.
Yeah,
That's
everything we do is
outrageous.
virtual. So I just hire people and I don't necessarily care where they live. I just want the best people for the
Yeah,
job.
yeah.
And like, well, I live in California. I'm like, "Oh, okay, great. You're hired. Awesome. Welcome to the team. We meet twice a year. We do company retreats. We have a thing called Camp NerdFitness that takes place in Georgia. It's a big 300-person event that everybody comes to, and I
Oh,
bring the whole team
nice.
to that. It's we do some cool stuff, and I'm just really proud of the kind of the journey I've been on. It started out in college or after college at that sales job with a panic attack. Like I'm supposed to do this for 40 years. There's no way. Like
Yeah.
I'm terrible at this. I hate it. I'm not. I don't believe in what I'm selling. I don't line up with the people I'm working with. There's got to be a better way. And now I'm at the point where like I love the people I work with. I have
Because
a
I
community
picked them.
amazing people. Like this is freaking awesome. And now I have a book that my mom can point to and say, "Look, my
Oh my
son
God.
wrote
It
a
always
book.
comes back to
Like it's
mom.
all working."
You know what I'm curious about? We talked a lot on the podcast with different guests about like building yourself up and crawling from the bottom. And I think everyone has a unique story about how they, broke out of their 9 to 5 if that's what they want to do. But what I'm curious about with you is the psychology of like doing your own thing as a solopreneur versus the psychology of moving into an entrepreneur or not an entrepreneur, but a CEO. And
Owner
so
and CEO, sure.
what I've found is that the mentality of like because this was me last year. I basically 2013, 2014, 2015, I was kind of just running the blog. I was making money, and it was great. I was like, man, I have like one product. It's more than enough money that I need to live, and I am loving this, right? And then when I started deciding I wanted to expand, there were other things I needed to do, and I couldn't do them alone. But then my responsibilities and my mindset changed. And so, can you just take us through the process of what it took to move from hustler to CEO?
Sure. Well, the hustle started when I stumbled across the 4-hour work week, like many
God,
many others did.
everyone has a story.
That
Yeah.
was that was the big impetus for me to write this book too. I walked into a bookstore while selling construction equipment, found the 4-hour work week, and I was like, oh, there is a better way. I
Yeah.
felt like Neo discovering the Matrix. So, and reading that book was like my goal is to travel and build a business that makes a certain amount of money. It was like if I could just make 50 grand and travel, like my life is set and I don't need anything else.
Yeah.
And I did that after a year or after 6 months of going full time with it. I booked an around the world plane ticket and traveled for a year and crossed 30 things off of my bucket list and
It's amazing.
went to, I lived like James Bond in Monaco and found Nemo in the Great Barrier Reef. I flew a stunt plane in New Zealand. Like I did all these cool things. And then when I came back from this trip, I picked up Richard Branson's autobiography, Losing My Virginity.
Ah.
And it was once again, a book changed my life. It was like a complete paradigm shift for me and my brain. And up until that point, I was like, I'm never going to hire anybody. Nerd Fitness is just me. And I'm going to do it all myself. And I'm going to put systems in place so I can automate, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And as it grew and as I read, because when I started it was like, I'm doing this so I can be free and travel and do all these things. And then I read Branson's book, and here's a guy that built an amazing company, or geez,
Companies. Yeah.
hundreds of companies. But he also does some crazy shit.
Yeah.
He tries to fly a hot air balloon around the world, and
Is he doing that?
his wedding, he flew in like underneath a helicopter. Like that's how he got dropped off at his wedding. Like
What?
he's done some crazy things.
Didn't know
He
that.
owns an island in the Caribbean
Yeah.
that our mutual friend Manish got to hang out at, and I'm
Oh,
so
so
pissed and jealous.
jealous.
um, and I was like, here's a guy that's got it figured out. Like he was able to scale something that he believed in to a point that he could have mass impact on the planet
Yeah.
and still do all the cool things. So all of a sudden, Nerd Fitness to me shifted. It went from like I'm at the in a game of level 1 to level 50. Like I felt like I'm at level 50. I'm doing it. I'm traveling. I'm doing all these things. And then I realized I was like almost doing myself a disservice, and not to sound like full of myself, but I was like, I think I'm doing the planet a disservice. Like I feel like
Oh
I'm
yeah.
really helping people. I feel like Nerd Fitness has a net positive impact on people's lives, and the more people that find it, the healthier these people become and the happier they become. Therefore, if this is going to become what it needs to become, I'm going to need to get some help.
Yeah.
And if Branson's my model, I can find a way to both enjoy the things that I love and build a business that can, as Steve Jobs put it, put a dent in the universe. So that was like instead of me being at level 50, I felt like I was now back at level 5, and level 50 is virgin, as far as what Branson built. So it was just a complete shift for me, and it's been a struggle. The past 2 years, the first, I want to say, year or so of me hiring people and going through a lot of these things was very tough. I struggled to give up control of a lot of things.
Like what? I have some things too. What did you struggle on?
I answered every email that came into Nerd
Oh,
Fitness
that's
up
the
until like a year and a
worst
half ago.
idea. I know, but I know.
It's like I've been at it full time now for 5 years. So I was answering emails up because I was like, people are reading Steve, they want to hear from Steve, and if they hear from somebody else, they're gonna stop reading, and they would never, and blah blah blah. And then I finally was like, hey, can you help me? So I had somebody in my team helping with some other tasks. I was like, can you just help me answer some of these? Like, it was taking me a month to get back to people.
Oh,
At
yeah.
least. And then I hired somebody, and they answered them better than I could, and in less than 24 hours, and they wrote in a better style than I did. I was like, I'm an idiot.
You're not even that good at emailing, Steve.
All right, I'm not good at it.
You're not good at it. The backlog of the emails gets for me. It creates so much anxiety. Of like the inbox creates a lot of anxiety. I had this like little. It wasn't like a breakdown, but like this like detachment in last year where I was getting because we had this really uncomfortable growth period where it was like I was going through a massive like just puberty, just massive growth on the list.
I'm still waiting for puberty personally, but I hope it kicks in
soon.
Me
too. I mean, me too. I'm waiting to get my full beard.
I can't even grow full beard. Seriously.
Last year we went from 5,000 to 100,000 subscribers, and it just ballooned. And because of that growth, I was like, I can't handle it because it was too much.
Right, and who wants to listen to you complain about, we're growing too fast? Everybody's like, shut up.
Shut up. Oh my God, guys, we're making so much money. It's so hot, no.
Right, it's like, that's not, yeah.
But so that's one thing. What's another thing you had trouble like letting go of?
So I think that I've pretty much relinquished control of like the editorial calendar. I contribute a little bit, but we now have 3 other people that write articles for Nerd Fitness as well, and that was absolutely necessary because I was also trying to write a book at the same time. Yeah. But I've given up almost all of the day-to-day operations of Nerd Fitness, and I now focus more on the high-level stuff. And that was a big challenge for me because as somebody that was so intimately involved in every detail and everything,
It's your baby.
There was a cool moment for me a few weeks ago. I was on my book tour, and I was passing through Austin, and I flew 3 team members into Austin and a film crew, and then I flew on to Los Angeles, and I was in LA doing parkour as part of this adventurous book tour I was on, while 4 other team members were in Austin filming videos for an upcoming Nerd Fitness product, and I had just complete faith in these people. Like, they're going to do it, and they're going to do it well. It's very important for me to make sure Nerd Fitness is not just Steve Kamb. I don't know. I've heard just too many stories of people that live and die by that one person, and that person is constantly the bottleneck. And I really focused on or wanted to shine the light on Nerd Fitness as a brand and Nerd Fitness as a community. And not because I have any plans to do anything differently, but I just think Nerd Fitness is so much bigger than me and can help so many more people if it's not just Steve, Nerd Fitness Steve. So we've taken a lot of steps recently to kind of diversify and using words like diversify. I feel like I should be saying like diversified portfolio TPS reports and shit. Yeah. But diversified. More importantly, I like to look at it like making Nerd Fitness more anti-fragile.
Yeah.
It's this concept from Nassim Taleb, but if you don't introduce a little bit of chaos into your life now, when the shit hits the fan down the road, you're horribly prepared to deal with it, and everything falls apart. So by introducing a little bit of chaos now, finding more people that can help write, finding other people that can help build products, introducing other leadership members of the team that can help lead things without having to come to me and ask about them, it sets us up in a way to succeed on a level that we've never been able to do before and do some really freaking cool things that I find out about, a few weeks before they're about to happen. Like we're doing camp this fall called Camp Nerd Fitness. We have it every year. And I have somebody on my team whose job is to run camp, and like she'll book all the people that are coming to speak at it. Obviously they're friends of mine, but she'll help coordinate who's coming to teach parkour, who's going to come teach yoga, or what the theme nights are, which video game tournaments we're going to have, whatever it may be. And I just get to focus on doing the things that only I can do. And that's write great content, do interviews and things like this, and provide a level of leadership above the rest of it, and make sure we're kind of steering the ship in the right direction.
That's amazing. Sometimes I have moments like that too, where I sit back and I watch something that gets done that I like orchestrated, but I wasn't like directly involved in, and I'm like, wow, I created this organism of people doing things, and like they're improving like my employees are doing well because they're improving their lives inside the company. Like it's affecting millions of people, because of the audience and all this stuff. And like it's something that it's like tipping the domino, and then it just it goes.
Sure.
You're the tipper, but you're not knocking down every single domino.
Right.
And it's very powerful, and that's really has been the transition for me, at least, from hustler to CEO. Was like before was me turning every dial, like to the point where publishing every post, pushing publish. Like I had a simple pleasure. I was we have a product that we just rolled out, and one of the modules, it's a beta course, and one of the new modules rolled out, and I was on a plane, and as I was on the plane, I got off the plane and I saw that the next part of the course had been shipped. They did it all in Infusionsoft. It was all done, and it was all like it was coded inside the course. All I said was, guys, make sure that unit is done, and we need to have it done by the time XYZ. And it was just done. And I was like, what? I didn't have to do it?
It's great.
It was amazing.
Well, it allows you to focus on the things that only you can do. Like, so I wake up every morning and I write content for 4 hours. That's what amazing. I love to write. That's like the biggest lever I can pull at the company is creating things that I can do. And then as soon as I write the article, I send it to somebody else to edit it, somebody else to put the photos into it, somebody else to publish it, to share it on social media, and to send it out through our email provider. Like I write it, and then somebody else handles those other things. And it allows me then to spend twice as much time creating content instead of having to do the rest of the stuff. It's been really helpful.
I was so afraid of relinquishing the control of the email provider. I was like, they're gonna fuck it up. It's really difficult. I don't know if do you use Infusion?
We're on a combination of like Aweber, and then we have some different plugins for some other things, and we're kind of all over the place.
Yeah, well, I mean, but there's still like segments and there's stuff going on.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was like, there's no way anybody can learn how to do this. I've been doing this for years now. Only I know how to operate this application. Not fucking true. Like I just trained them, and then they did it, and it didn't blow up. Like same thing with Anti-Fragile. You have to be able to say, okay, there has to be a point where Daniel doesn't have to press send on this email anymore. Whenever we get to that point, it's dependent on whenever you get out of your own head, just train someone to do this, take 30 minutes and do it. And then let's say that we do mail out something, and we have it mails out to the wrong segment of people. Oops, sorry, it's gonna suck. We try not to make a mistake, but like that might happen. But it's still the training still has to happen sometime. I can't mail this forever,
Sure. Well, so the thing that's been really helpful for us is, especially in the past 6 months, when we've gone from 4 employees to 9, is putting procedures and policies in place. Like how to send an email. We use a program called Camtasia or Camtasia 2 or whatever. And somebody, like when they're sending the next email, like they just do a screen capture and talk about how they're sending it and what they're doing. So now we have a video library of everything that needs to get done. So if that person moves up or moves on or moves into a different part of the company and we have to bring somebody else in, or they're on vacation or they're sick or their kid's sick, it's like, well, how do we do this? It's like, watch the video and you're now officially trained and you're good to go. And doing things like that and having that checklist for people to follow and get through stuff just makes it so much easier. Yes, it requires upfront work, but you do it once, and if you record it and documented it, it's done, and that will work for the next 10 people that roll through that position.
Oh yeah, it just creates redundancy, so you don't create another bottleneck by only training one person.
Right.
We use Sweet Process for that, so it's just like an application that holds all the videos, and you can do checklists and stuff. But same thing.
Yep.
And so what I'll do is I'll train someone live, and while we're training it, we're also recording it. So I only have to say it one time, and it gets recorded, and then that's it. But been a massive game changer, and it's still not easy to always let go. But what have you, besides writing, like what have you found has been the biggest, the biggest advantage of moving up to a more like a higher level of the business? Like what opportunities are here for you now that you couldn't do when you were so deep in the weeds? A book is one.
I read a lot. I read a lot more. I probably read 2 books a week now.
Nice. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it just, whether it's business books or leadership books or whatever it may be, removing myself from that day to day, I think also shows the people that I work with that I trust them. Like if I'm micromanaging, and I mean, one, it's tough to micromanage when you live in 9 different states, so I wouldn't be able to do that anyway.
Yeah.
But just being like, hey, look, this is your thing, own it, do it how you want, and here's the one thing that I need to get done. I don't care how you make it happen.
Yeah.
Do it in a way that you feel good about, and ship it, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. And I think relinquishing and doing that has allowed other team members to really take ownership and responsibility for the things that they have been put in charge of. And when you do that, then they notice other things like, hey, I would love to be part of this, or hey, we should be doing this and we're not. Like, great, do it. Just for example, somebody, I just got a like 2 minutes before we started talking, somebody on my team was like, hey, the developer that we work with found out that there's a WordPress camp happening a few hours from his house that he wants to go to in 2 weekends.
Perfect.
So I booked him a ticket and we bought him a hotel, and he's going to go to that, and we're going to give him 2 days off during the next week. Like,
Okay.
great. Love it. I'm so excited. Like, I want them to feel educated and learn more things and be, feel good about like, hey, this is a cool opportunity that I would like to check out. Like, great, go for it. I had nothing to do with that. She wasn't even like, hey, can we buy him a ticket? She was like, hey, he said he wanted to go to this thing, so I did it, and now he's going. It's like, great. Love it.
So that's a great example of how before I turned this into a company, before it was more than just one person, I never really saw some of the really cool advantages of having people work with you. It's that you can give other people opportunities to do things because of the resources of the company. Like the company, it makes money and it does well for itself, and that's great. But like because of those resources, you can help not only your customers out, but also your employees, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we did a company retreat last year in San Diego where we rented a giant house in Pacific Beach.
It's amazing.
And we all hung out for 4 days or 3 days, and we played blackjack and what's the heck, the tip, some pig game. I can't remember. Where like you have to it's like dice, but they're pigs, and you roll them.
Yeah. I don't know.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called, but we played games at night. We had fun meetings during the day. And walked to the beach. We threw the frisbee around. It was like, this is a pretty kick-ass company retreat. Yeah, and then we go to camp, and now it's like
construction.
Where do you guys want to go to next? Yeah. And no joke, every time I drive past like a job site, and not to belittle the construction industry, but I was so miserable and so mismatched and so just beat up about this whole scenario that now, like, I look back, I'm like, man, I can't believe, I'm so thankful that it was so bad. Otherwise, I probably would have stuck with it, because it's so easy to be like, well, it's not too bad. And then they give you a raise or a promotion. And then you're like, well, now I can't leave because I would look like a jerk because they just promoted me.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're like 45 and you're like, shit.
It's kind of like the dog, like the whole story about the dog laying on the nail, and he's moaning, and it's not enough for him to move, but just enough to yell.
Yeah.
And that's your whole life.
Yeah.
I was talking to my girlfriend the other day, and she said something that I'm curious about. And I want to know what you think, because you're doing even more stuff than we are right now. You're doing great. She said, what did she? I'm trying to put her words. She said, you're doing everything right and everything is working, but like I think that for you, there's also an element of like luck involved, and there's also an element of this is what you're supposed to be doing. Like you're supposed to be running this type of company. You're supposed to be teaching people and helping them. And I think a lot of people are allured by this whole sort of online business thing. Do you really think it's possible for anyone to do this, or do you think there's just a certain amount of people who can really just do this, and other people like they're just never going to make it happen?
I think it takes. There's a few things. I think I put people in 2 camps. And it's to go back to the 4-hour work week, there's the people that I gave that book to. They were like, oh man, this is really cool and what an interesting idea. And then the second camp, people was like, oh, it must be nice to whatever, and this will never work. And I was very much firmly in the first camp. Like I was like, here's a dude that came up with an idea, that built a business, and then he traveled. I'm just going to do that. It might take me a decade, I don't know, but I'll find a way and I'll just make it work. So I think mentality is one. I see it every day in the health and fitness space too. Here's a story of a guy that lost 250 pounds, and we get emails from people like, "Well, it must be nice for him, but it won't work for me because the same two excuses that everybody uses."
I'm special.
I think Ramit Sethi calls it unique snowflake syndrome,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, this doesn't work for me because blah 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 blah," and it's the same two excuses that everybody uses. It's I don't have time. I don't have the same opportunities. I don't
I
have
didn't
the
go to
money
Princeton
to
like
blah
Tim
blah.
Ferriss. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so I think there's a mentality aspect to it as well. I don't know about the luck thing. I feel like if Nerd Fitness didn't, or if I don't know, when I started it, I wasn't like, oh, here's a market I'm trying to capitalize on. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm just a huge nerd and I like fitness, so I'm just going to write about those
Combine
things. It wasn't
those two.
right, yeah, and and then 2 years after that, Marvel acquires or Disney acquires Marvel and Star Wars, and now it's like being nerdy and fit is cool, and gyms are popping up, and they're like this. That's like it was the thing on Fox News the other day. It was like trendy. It was like nerds and fit. I was like, oh
I'm
shit, we're
already on
trendy now.
it. Yeah.
I was like,
Been
I can't
there.
wait until we're not trendy again
Yeah.
because that was not why I started this.
I know.
So had Nerd Fitness not worked out, I probably would have picked something else, and that might have taken even longer. But I'd be sitting here telling you a different story about how the thing that I built took off. Um, there's a level of risk aversion or risk tolerance, I guess.
For
I had to
sure.
quit. I was living on very little money, which was fine. I think many people get themselves caught in a trap where they buy a big house and then they need to fill it with a bunch of stuff. And then they need a bigger car to move the things. And then they get a promotion and then blah, blah, blah. So for them to quit and try something, they're playing on legendary difficulty. Whereas for me, it was like, well, I love this job I'm in,
Yeah.
but it's not paying me very much. So if I can learn to live on a little bit of money and try to make this thing work, if it doesn't work out, not like I gave up a
It gets
ton.
exponentially harder when get the deeper you get established into the system. It gets exponentially harder to
Absolutely.
extract yourself. You know,
Yeah.
it's like the whole Matrix analogy, like untethering yourself from that little thing in the back. Like
Yeah.
that gets harder, as you go on. Like I have, and just look at your Facebook news feed. You see like friends every year getting more and more entrenched in whatever. So it's like first kid, second kid, marriage, divorce, second marriage. Especially now 31.
Yeah.
Most of your friends probably on their second marriage.
I have a few. I have a few on the
Right.
second marriage. I have a number of which that are in jobs that they've been complaining about for 6 years or 7 years or 8 years, and I actually installed Facebook newsfeed eradicator on my computer, and I don't have Facebook on my phone.
Yeah.
So like I don't actually know what's happening in my friends' lives other than when they comment on things
What
that
a
I post for
dick.
fitness reasons. Because all I see is just like it's stupid links to BuzzFeed articles and cat videos and pictures of their kids. And I'm sure their kids are cute. And when I go to visit them, I cannot wait to hang out with that kid because I think kids are awesome. Can't wait to have my own someday. But at the moment, it's like that's just not where I am, and it's not a good use of my time.
Yeah.
And I don't need to be reading about how miserable people are and what they do. Like, I empathize to an extent. What I don't love is people that complain without taking action.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like you can either take action and yes, you can complain as loudly as you want as you're doing something about it. But if you complain and do nothing, I can't do it.
Yeah, but you're overlooking the fact that sometimes complaining is a way to fit in with people because everyone's complaining, so it feels good.
That's true. Yeah, commiserating together, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's like we all have chicken pox together, so we're just gonna keep scratching. And doesn't this suck? Yeah, it really sucks. Oh, this sucks. Yeah.
Put the calamine lotion on it. What are you doing?
Yeah. When I was little, my mom made me get chicken pox to get it over with. Isn't that cruel? That's probably child abuse.
I think I did. I have a scar in the middle of my forehead when I picked chicken pox too much.
But did your mom force you to get it?
Uh, I'll have to ask her. She
Yeah.
maybe she like made me go hang out. That was
Yeah.
the South Park episode, wasn't it? Where like they made all the kids hang out with each other, even though one of them had chicken pox.
Yeah,
and
my mom, she was like, my friend Brett, my best friend growing up, she's like, go hang out with him. I'm like, no, he's sick. Go hug him. Get it over with. So I got it, and I was so pissed at her because
Anti-fragile, dude, right there.
Immediately, I could feel the virus just like a dementor, just sucking my soul, and I just felt just horrible. The next day, I was itching. I
Oh,
had
it's
on my
so itchy.
balls. It was horrible. Like, why would you do this to me, Mom? Then I told my argument was, Mom, maybe I wouldn't have gotten this. She's like, if you get it when you're older, it's much worse.
Way worse, yeah.
But I think at that time, at 8, I would have taken the risk of. I would have rather had shingles and died at 30 than had chickenpox at 8 at the time. But
Sure.
you got
Now looking back, your mom's just
So smart.
She's a forward thinker.
Yeah, so smart. She's very progressive in her thinking.
Yeah.
One thing that I was talking to some of my readers about in our Facebook group, and again, this is another thing that Sarah brought up. Man, she's smart. Let me keep her around. She was saying that, or what I was talking to my readers about was one of the reasons why we quit our projects, our passions, our projects, what are the things we work on before we complete them, is because we don't have a vision. So what I mean is, like, let's say you're a singer, okay, and you want to be a world famous singer, you want to sell at Madison Square Garden and all that shit. If you knew that it would only take you writing 200 songs, and by the time you got to your 201st song, you'd be an international superstar. You'd be day and night banging out those songs. You're like, by the time I get to 201, I'm on. It's happening. Right. Same thing with writing. If I write, I don't know, I've written probably 1,000 articles. If I write 1,000 articles, the 1,001 is going to be my New York Times bestselling book. You just work to put in that work. But because we don't have those definitive blocks of, like it's almost like have you ever had like an advent calendar as a kid? Yep. You take out a little chocolate and then you get to like an end resolution.
It's an end point. Sure.
An end point. But we don't have that because there's all this uncertainty, and because of that, because we don't know how long it's going to take to get somewhere, we equate not knowing how long with never happening, right?
Sure.
How do you as a new entrepreneur juxtapose the idea that like things might take a while, but it's going to happen, and how do you prepare yourself mentally for like the wilderness? Have you seen The Revenant yet?
I haven't.
Okay.
So the past 3 weeks I've been
You're a
traveling.
nerd. What are you doing?
I know. I was on this book tour. Hello. So I was a little busy.
It, but it's Leonardo DiCaprio in the woods screaming the whole movie for 2.5 hours. That's what entrepreneurship is to me. So just, I mean, at one point
sleeping in carcasses,
naked.
Just getting real weird with it.
And I think that was a real carcass. So like, how do you keep the mental toughness and how do you get the vision to proceed when there's a path but there's no clear end?
That's a great question, and a fantastic segue, which you didn't even realize, into my book, Level Up Your Life.
I did realize that. I knew what I was doing.
Good. So I wrote this book, Level Up Your Life. It's this idea of taking behavioral psychology and video game mechanics, essentially the things that keep us addicted to the games that we're playing, and applying them to our real life. So it's just like you said, like, if I knew I had to write 200 articles, and on the 201st article, then my blog would become popular. At 500 articles, it would become, I'd make $1 million, and at 1,000 articles, then I'll get a book deal. That's why we love video games so much. We see that little experience bar, and it's like, I am 80% of the way to level 5. And then you kill a spider, and it's like, now you're 81% of the way. It's like, boom, I just got to kill 19 more of these things. And you sit there, and you're friggin' swinging away with your wooden sword at these stupid little spiders for hours at a time, because you're like, well, this gets me level 5. It's like, well, what does that get you? It's like, I got a new shield. What does that do? Well, the new shield lets me, deflect fireballs from the dragon. So then I get to kill him, and I get dragon skill armor. So then I can go to level 8, and then at level 8, I can do whatever. It's this concept of the progress principle. We love to make progress. We love to see progress, and like our brains are wired for like that next dopamine hit of seeing progress. It's why we get hooked on World of Warcraft. It's why people like, it's like a guy in Korea, or I think it was South Korea, who played so much World of Warcraft in an internet cafe that he forgot to eat, sleep, and he actually passed away because like they found him because he was so addicted. His brain got so hooked to World of Warcraft. Oh my God. So for me, I was so miserable in my day job that my afternoons were spent playing a game called EverQuest, and then EverQuest 2, but which game is very similar to World of Warcraft, but they came before it. And in those games, same thing. I just got so hooked on leveling up and killing dragons because my real life sucked. And going into this game world,
that was life, though. That is a life.
It's like in
virtual life.
Was it Inception?
Yeah.
Where like they had people that permanently wanted to stay in the dreamland because real life was so miserable. So my real life was so crappy that I was spending more and more time in these video game worlds, or getting lost in another movie, another book, another whatever. It became an escape for me. So for what I decided to do was like, I need to apply these same mechanics and the same behavioral psychology stuff that's keeping me hooked in these games. Like, I need to start living vicariously through myself. And when I look at myself like a character, what does that look like? And yes, I don't know how many posts it's going to take. I have no idea how many push-ups I'm going to have to do until I look like Captain America.
Never.
I don't know.
It's not going to happen.
I don't know. But I know if I put some sort of construct in place, and that's really funny that you so I've had the life goal of like my entire life trying to look like Captain America. Just like, as a joke.
I'm just shitting on you on purpose. I'm not really serious.
But I'm saying here's the reason why. 2 weeks ago, I was getting fitted for a tux in San Francisco, one of our book tour events. We recreated my James Bond and Monte Carlo casino night in San Francisco.
Nice.
And I got the tux and I went to put it on and the guy's like, well, he's like, dude, I'm sorry. This is about as good as it's going to get because you're built like Captain America.
Yes!
And I gave this guy the biggest hug and I was like, sir, you don't know. This skinny little scrawny kid named Steve, like, Captain America, Steve Rogers, like he was the skinny scrawny guy.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't know how long I've been waiting to hear that. He had no idea who I was. He had no clue. He didn't know I run a website called NerdFitness and that I have Captain America's shield hanging on my wall over here and artwork of Captain America hanging currently above my desk. And it was so funny. So anyway, so back to the let's say you're trying to blog, learn a language, learn a musical instrument, start traveling. For your listeners, let's say it's building a business. Put together a leveling system. Create levels 1 through 20. If level 20 is, let's say level 20 is making a full-time income off your business. And it's like, okay, well then let's reverse engineer that. At level 10, it means I need to make, let's say, $500 a month. And then we'll say $1,500 a month will be at level whatever. And if it's $500 a month at level 10, then at level 5, it means you need to have X number of subscribers. And then you can like reverse engineer each of these little tiny levels. And very similar to a video game, why not introduce experience points? And as you cross things off of your list or you hit specific goals, and not only specific goals from like I reached X number of subscribers, but maybe it's more, the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours type thing. Maybe it's for me to write my book. I had to write 500 words every morning. Yeah. That was my goal. I didn't know when the book was going to be done. I didn't know how good it was going to be. I didn't know how good the writing was going to be. But every morning, my quest for the day was to wake up and write 500 words. Sometimes I picked it up. I was like, my first words are like, I don't want to write this shit. And I would start writing, and sure enough, 200 words in, I'd have my music on, something would start to click, a new idea would come in. But I stopped relying on motivation. This is the thing I talk about in the book, but the phrase I found, it was on a Quora article, it was like, essentially, pardon my French, but fuck motivation, cultivate discipline.
Yeah.
And I read that and I was like, that is the most brilliant thing I've ever heard, because everybody's like, I'm motivated to start a business. And then 3 weeks go by and they're like, oh, I'm not motivated anymore. It's like, it's going to take longer than 3 weeks.
One thing I like to talk to my readers about is like, and just in general, the idea of motivation or inspiration, it's almost, it's comical to think that people would rely on that, because it's like, if you only go to the gym when you're motivated to go to the gym, of course you're going. You're motivated. That's the point. The point is to go when you're not motivated, which is like 6 out of 7 days. Of
course. Yep.
Nerd fitness is not motivated nerd fitness. It's just fitness.
It's fitness. You got to show up.
Show up.
So the other two things that I've done, also stolen from video games, is introducing a reward system and accountability. So again, not relying on motivation, because if I only wrote when I was motivated, I wouldn't write. And if I only exercised when I was motivated, I wouldn't work out. It wouldn't happen. So until those habits become like concrete laws of your existence, you need to introduce every outside element you can to give you the horse blinders you need to stay on target. So introducing a reward system. So let's say if you publish 2 blog posts a week, every week for 6 months, you earn a trip to Blog World, or you earn a trip to some sort of reward, very similar to video games. It's like, oh, a new sword gets me to the next level. That gets me to go explore a new place. Yep. You need to reward yourself with something that rewards you even further down the path. Like in fitness, people do this all the wrong way. They're like, oh, I ran 4 miles today, so I'm going to go eat a piece of cake. Yeah. It's like, no, you're doing it wrong. And then accountability. In a game, if you could run around in God mode and kill everybody, but what's the fun in that?
Yeah.
The fun comes in the fact that it's challenging and there's a real risk of dying. And if you die in the game, you have to start over. And so when you actually complete it, it makes it more successful. When I was writing the book and when I was building Nerd Fitness, I gave my team member Stacy $500 of my money. And every time I missed a blog post, or it actually didn't happen because I wouldn't let it, but if I missed a blog post, she would donate $50 to the Westboro Baptist Church.
Oh.
That's the one that like hates everybody and everything, and they're terrible people and blah blah blah, yada yada yada. If you have any listeners from them, I'm not really sorry about it.
Yeah.
So I was like,
you seen me? Come on.
Yeah, my option was I could either donate money to a horrible cause that is making people's lives miserable, or I can write the freaking blog post that is going to fundamentally change my life's path.
Yeah.
I should probably just sit down and write the damn blog post. It works in fitness. It works in building a business. It works in anything. Introduce accountability, rewards, show yourself that you're making progress, and recruit an ally to, very much like a video game, recruit an ally to stay in your it's people have masterminds. Video games, you have a guild that you join. It's not going it alone and having other people help keep you accountable and have people to bounce questions off of and things like that. So I apologize for talking really fast. I just get really excited and amped up about this shit. And so those are the things that I would do. Screw motivation, cultivate discipline, and put game mechanics into your life so that you don't have to rely on willpower and motivation, because those things are fleeting.
Yeah, I mean, if you look, I'm sure you've read Mastery by Robert Greene, and that's the whole concept. Like, mastery is not about inspiration. You can get inspired, and that will help to add fuel to your discipline. But you have to have the discipline there first.
Sure.
Inspiration and motivation is like a little bit of lighter fluid that you pour on a flame that's already going. Right? The flame has to be there, though.
Sure.
And so you have to cultivate that. And so I think that where we're going wrong right now, as a culture, in terms of like the trendiness of entrepreneurship, and partially this is maybe even partially my fault, because like I run an Instagram account and it's very motivational, right? It's the motivational account that gets you pumped up, but people mistake. It's almost like I call it motivation masturbation. They mistake
Sure.
motivation and feeling good about something with actually doing something about it. Like they say, I'm inspired to start a business, and then they spend time thinking about it, Googling it.
No, you know what happens, dude? They're so inspired to start, but then they scroll to the next photo and it's like a cat.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, that cat's awesome. And then that was there. Then it's gone.
It's gone. Well, that's masturbation, right? It's gone. Right? This is the truth. It's like 4 minutes and I'm done. But the thing is, sometimes we will spend so much time in research mode or in pre-effort mode that will actually expend all the energy we would have used doing the actual thing. So like we'll spend 3 weeks researching like what business idea we should do. I mean, I've gone back and forth with people. 3 weeks. I have a friend who's wanted to. I mean, he's seen me since 2011 blow this thing up into a great business, and he's still talking about, should I start a blog? I'm like, if you don't fucking start that thing. Or he'll ask me questions. He'll be like, what do you think about this WordPress theme? I'm like, what do you mean WordPress theme? It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Like, I'm like, Mike, I want to.
Right. Powerbomb Mike, yeah.
There's a lot of mics out there, so you don't know which mic I'm talking about.
Which mic, though? Yeah, that's the mystery.
Anyway, he'll probably watch this. He knows. I love him though. But anyway, but yeah. So I think I think what's happening now is because of the trendiness of entrepreneurship. People are having a harder time seeing the real nuts and bolts of what's going on. And what you're doing is not complicated. Like I'm sure you have a lot of people who are like, Steve, tell me your secrets to starting your mega super successful business. And you're like, I don't know. I write every day, and
I wrote a lot of crappy articles for a long time.
Yeah, I deleted most of my crappy ones, but they're like around somewhere probably. But
sure.
Yeah, you just do it every day, and then eventually it builds on itself, and then sometimes it's boring.
Most of the time, like if anybody was like, hey, we'd love to do a profile on what you do, I'm like, cool, I'll roll out of bed, read a book for about an hour, and then I sit in my ass at my computer and I write for 4 hours, hit the gym for an hour, and I come home and then I get back to work.
Yeah.
Sometimes I play some music, sometimes I go hang out with friends, but it's not glamorous. It's not glamorous, but it's how I did it day in day. I publish 2 articles a week, every week for 7 years now.
Yeah.
It's 750 articles. My articles are between 2,000 and 3,000 words, sometimes 5,000 words. fully researched, whatever. I spend 20 hours a week per blog post, probably. Like if you go back and forth between what we're doing, but I've done that twice a week, every week for forever.
Now here's what they'll say. That's great. That's great. That's great. What's the real secret? You know, you're like,
It's this WordPress plugin. Let me tell you about it.
Yeah, it's Sumo Me.
Right.
Noah.
Hey, Noah.
But yeah, so I think that's the thing. And I think, but that's like the allure versus the reality, right? You know, it's just
Fitness is no different, man.
Yeah.
Hey, is this fat burning supplement or this one? It's like, dude, don't even touch this. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Go to the gym and learn how to squat and stop drinking soda. Do those two things and you'll have more success than you've ever had in your entire life. And then once you build those habits, then we'll talk about introducing pull-ups, maybe making some other small changes, but you do not, that stuff drives me crazy. And it's like the 7 fitness tips to
7 simple tips.
Yeah, to banish belly fat. Like, I just want to punch you in the face.
Well,
not really.
Or they'll find like the most non-essential minutia and be like, should I be using whey isolate or whey concentrate? I'm like, you just need to not stop eating McDonald's is what you need to stop eating.
Well, yeah, if you're dumping that scoop of protein on top of a pizza, it doesn't matter which one you pick. So
yeah,
that, and we get people too, you talked about this a bunch, what you were just saying, people doing all the research. In the book, I equate it to the underpants gnomes of South Park. But it's this concept that, all the gnomes, they steal the underpants from all the kids and they go to see the gnomes. They're like, what are you doing? They're like, this is our business plan. Like phase 1 is collect underpants. Phase 2 is a giant question mark, and phase 3 is profit. But they have no idea what phase 2 is, so they just keep collecting underpants. So Tell people, like, every YouTube video you watch, every photo you look at, every article you read, whatever, you are collecting underpants. Phase 3 is where you want to go. Phase 2 is actually taking action. So stop collecting more underpants. Get your ass out there. If you want to play music, strum your first shitty notes on a guitar.
The underpants are email addresses. Collect those.
Yes. Okay. You can collect email addresses.
Definitely collect those.
Correct. But you have to get to the point where you can collect those. So it's like my Nerd Fitness. I used a free WordPress template, and I had 5-minute WordPress install, whatever, a free WordPress template for 2 years until it got to the point where somebody emailed me. He's like, dude, I love your site. I'm going to design you a template for free because I want to make it look better. And I was like, good, because I don't have any money. But it didn't. People are so worried about the tactics and tips, and should I do this or that, or what about working out? Oh, do I do 4 sets of 6 or 5 sets of 5? It doesn't matter.
Show up, please.
Just do one of them. Get your ass in the gym and do one of them. Diet is 90% of it anyway, so stop putting protein on your pizza and pick 4 times 6 or 5 by 5. I don't care as long as you do one and then add weight onto the bar next week.
So what you're saying is, especially in the business world, there is still like, it's not so saturated to the point where like a blog can't be successful anymore. A YouTube channel can't be successful. Like there's plenty of room for success.
Dude, you know how big the internet is?
It's really big. It's
massive, and millions of people are coming online every day. I'm thankful that I had no idea how saturated the fitness market was when I started fitness. I didn't know any better. I never bought a blogging course. I never bought a whatever. I didn't do a lot of research. I was just like, I build computers and I love Harry Potter and I play EverQuest, but I also want to help people get fit. So I'm just going to combine those two things. And people are like, well, but why, how many nerds are there that want to get fit? There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them.
Dude,
so if you're like,
you should do jujitsu. Jujitsu is full of nerds.
Nerdjitsu.
Jujitsu is full of guys who sit at their computers all day, but you wouldn't know that they could destroy your life.
Well, there's a leveling system with the belts.
Yeah.
I love it. It's video games.
Yeah, and it's all chess. It's all like body chess and stuff. Oh my God. They're all nerds in there. These are the guys that for sure used to get picked on, and now they will destroy you.
I love it.
Yeah, I get picked apart by like small, scrawny kids all the time who are just more skilled than me. Just amazing.
That's so cool. I love it.
Yeah, I know. I love it. It's the same thing with me with fitness. I used to do bodybuilding. Like I used to compete and stuff. And when I realized how saturated it was, like when I started getting into the internet game, I'm like, man, fitness is really fucked up. Let me go into the make money niche. Yeah, because that's better. Let me go into the entrepreneurship niche. That's
right.
So I think you're right. I think that
so you can join, but you be different. Nerd Fitness was successful because every other fitness website I read was covered in supplement ads. They had 5 posts per week that were topical and short because nobody would ever read a long article is what they told me.
SEO optimized, Headlines.
I still don't know how to do SEO.
Me
I don't know
neither.
anything about it, but Google ranks us super high for a lot of things because I write great stuff that helps people and I've been doing it for 7 years. So for anybody that's listening is like, oh, do I enter? It's like, get into the niche, but don't, or niche, whatever, but don't just get into it because like, oh, well, this seems profitable. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
no. What do you actually care about? How can you carve it down to a group of people that you can speak to directly? And then how can you build a system around you so that you work on that freaking thing every single day? You get better, you improve, you adapt, you adjust, whatever. And every day is a little bit better than the day before. And then just repeat that process for a few years. And people are like, oh, I want to be done faster than that. Like a few years from now, that's still the rest
It's
of
pretty
your life. You get
fast.
to enjoy doing things on your own terms. That's amazing. Nobody else, at no other point in history can we do what we do right now.
It's
It's
no,
incredible.
dude. Do you know? Have you ever watched Men Who Built America on History?
Oh, I love, dude.
I
I've seen it twice.
love it, love it. Okay, so I watched that show and I think to myself, back in the day, like entrepreneurship was like a fisticuff, gritty business. Like Andrew Carnegie would come to your house and fucking slap you.
Vanderbilt like used to make money like in like under the bridge boxing matches.
Yeah,
Like he would
yeah.
beat up people.
They would. I mean, at that point, they were like moving steel and oil. Now we're like type, 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 type.
Oh, this is so hard.
Oh my!
Shut up.
This hurts. Yeah, I mean, it's like I was talking to my girlfriend the other day because we were just back in Atlanta where
You guys talk a lot. That's really good
we
for your
talk
relationship.
a lot. Yeah, mostly via text in the same room. But we were talking, and we were in Atlanta. I'm sure that's where you do Nerd Fitness Camp, right?
Yep.
Yep. So we're doing it. We're in Atlanta, by the way.
It's about an hour and a half north in a place called Clayton, Georgia.
I know Clayton.
It's up in the mountains. Beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful in Clayton. So we're chatting and we're back in Atlanta last weekend actually, and I was like, can you believe that just 4 years ago I was like 5 miles down the road serving steaks, and now we have like a full staff and I'm writing a book. We're going for New York Times bestseller and we have 100,000 people on the email list and massive social media. I write for Time magazine. Can you believe that 4 years ago I was over there serving a steak? Like that fucking blows my mind.
Yep.
That it might seem like a long time when you're writing 500 words a day, but 4 years is very short. 7 years is short.
Yep.
It's short.
Life is a long time.
Yeah,
Life is. We should be fortunate enough, and regardless, we don't get to pick when. I put, as I say, we don't get to pick when the game over screen shows up. But
Yeah.
man, if you're not spending time on things that you enjoy, that challenge you, that make you feel alive, then it's if you do that, if you say that too many days in a row, it's time to make a change, mix things up.
Totally true. I produced this video a few like last week, and it was on urgency. And for some reason I think it's because I watched Straight Outta Compton a few weeks ago, and I've been getting. Have you seen it yet? Yeah, it's good. And I've been getting like back into West Coast rap, and I started listening to Tupac again. I was huge into Tupac in high school, a huge Tupac fan. I started
Sure.
listening to him again, and I started listening to a little bit of his interviews and stuff like that. And I'm remembering that he died at 25, which
He was only 25 when he
25
died.
when he died. Now check this out. 25 years
Holy
old.
shit!
Yeah, in the last 2 years of his death, the last 2 years before his death, between 1994 and 1996, he produced 12 albums, okay, 8 movies he was in, and he made 2 books of poetry, okay, in a 2-year period,
Holy crap!
okay? And we're bitching about writing a blog post every day. He had urgency. Now, maybe it's because he knew he wasn't going to last that long. Maybe he had that intuition. But this is a 25-year-old guy that between 23 years old and 25 years old produced a lifetime's worth of work, right? That's lasting the ages. There's still more stuff in the vault, I'm sure, okay? And
Wow.
and that's what you have to have some urgency. You have to wake up. You don't know when the game over screen is going to be here. We hope people I don't know if you know Scott Dinsmore. Same shit. Like you could be climbing a mountain and fucking die. That could be
Yep.
it. And it's a somber thing, but like with that in mind, we should wake up with a little bit more urgency. Like, if we live with the mentality that we have 80 more years, things get done a lot slower. You
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
Maybe we don't have that much time. And so I tested this theory out with my team this weekend. I said, guys, I want to make a product this weekend. I think we can do it. I want to make a product in 48 hours. I want it to be high quality. I want to turn it around. So Friday we came up with the idea. Saturday and Sunday we smashed it. Wednesday we launched it, and it worked. And I realized, damn, we could have been making a lot more products because people love this. We validated it. It worked. Why haven't we been moving faster all this time?
Sure.
Speed, So speed and consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Launch shit.
Yeah, launch, just do shit. Like, do shit. So, okay. First of all, where can people find your book? Is it everywhere? Is it all in all stores now?
Yeah, it's everywhere. Yeah, Level Up Your Life. If you go to levelupyourlife.com, you can actually create a character where you can create your own list of quests and missions, assign experience point values to them, and actually level up.
That's so you.
Like, it's so good. It's so nerdy. And like, you can pick what like game archetype you want to be. So like, if you're like the power lift, you're a warrior. If you like to run, you're a scout. If you do gymnastics or parkour, you're an assassin. If you like to travel, you're an adventurer. So like, we really dug into all that stuff. And then, so like, let's say you wanted to set a list of business goals. Like, you get to say like, these are my 100 business goals. And this one is 5 XP, this one's 20 XP, this one's 100 XP. And then as you cross those things off, your character levels up. So you can actually build the progress principle into your life. It's a community full of great people. And then, I publish twice a week at nerdfitness.com. And just the book, man, I'm so proud of it. And I'm hoping that it can become that book that the 4-Hour Workweek was to me. It's the book that, shifted my mentality completely. And I'm hoping that people walk into a bookstore and realize like, work isn't everything. And if you can prioritize the important things, here's a system to get you to handle your day-to-day responsibilities, but then also do fun stuff. Like there's a reason this violin is sitting next to me.
You're learning?
I actually learned to play the violin while I wrote the book because I wanted to prove the concepts and it worked. I was like, hey, not only am I traveling and running this business, but I don't know how to play violin, but that looks like fun. So let's figure that thing out. So I did the same thing. I put levels and progressions in place and recruited allies and found a mentor and whatever, and started taking weekly, very inexpensive violin lessons. And I'm still not great, but I'm way better than I was a year and a half ago when I started.
You should have told me that, Steve. Now you have to play something. You got to play something short. Come on, man. You got to do it.
This might be tough. Hold on. I'm trying to see if it's in tune.
Do you have a chin rest? Oh, there you go. You got it. Yeah. Love it. I used to play the viola in middle school. I miss it.
I could only kind of see it, but that was Old Crow Medicine Show's Wagon Wheel. So
love it.
I mostly playing like Irish fiddle and country music and just messing around with it. But I keep it next to my desk because I know if I don't keep it right next to me, I won't look at it. And if I don't look at it, then I don't pick it up and play it. But now that it's here, I pick it up and play it all the time.
Yep. Got to have the guitar out of the case in the room.
If you can see on the wall behind me, you can see the guitar and that piano.
you have to. Otherwise, like, I never want to practice unless it's like out staring at me. So.
Yeah, but when it's out staring at you, you play way more.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, nerdfitness.com as well, right?
Yep. Nerdfitness.com, really great community, lots of free stuff, helping people get fit, and then Level Up Your Life will help you level up your life.
That's a great obvious tagline. Love it.
Thank you,
Steve. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spending your time. You could be playing violin, but you're here with us right now.
That's all right. Thank you. I appreciate it. I don't get a chance to go on rants very often, so I got a chance to do some today. So thank you for the opportunity.
My pleasure. We'll put all your links below and all the cool stuff. And,
awesome.
We'll catch you on the flip side.
Sweet.
Peace.